De aceea să fiți foarte atenți. Dacă nu vi se spune în biserică, sunt plătiți, să știți, la ora aceasta oameni să tacă. Vor veni vremurile când veți fi vânduți de ciobani, de păstorii voștri. Vor vedea păstorii cum vă sfâșii în ocol fiara sălbatică și nu va veni să vă apere. Dacă trebuie să mergi pe calea părinților și botezul care le-ai primit și ai moștenit de la bunici și strămoși. Minciuna domnește peste tot.
In the September of 2001, the world changed. And I'm not talking about 9/11. I'm talking about 1 week later, when the internet world changed. This was the introduction of Code Red. Code Red wasn't an email virus, it wasn't a zombie, a Trojan. It was all of the above. It was the world's first complex blended threat, and it went around the world in 3 days. By September 21st, it had infected 2.2 million systems worldwide. Governments took notice because they realized they could take this technology and bring it up to a whole other level.
Hacking DNA?
Well, they've been doing that for a while. I mean, you know, putting all sorts of information in DNA, storing and encoding books and other long digital files in DNA. But this is using CRISPR-Cas9 to essentially have your DNA spy on you.
It's gotten to a point of a confluence, a merging between man and machine in a digital cyber world where we can never tell them apart. A digital cyber world where the battles are not being fought with bombs and bullets, but with bits and bytes. This is the age of the cyber spy.
This idea of using CRISPR-Cas9 to insert spy genes into your DNA opens up a really interesting world, especially when you look at the possibility of quantum computing.
So let me share that with you now. I'm going to take you down a digital wormhole, a wormhole, by the way, that we plan to send those attackers. There is another war going on beneath the surface.
The new novel coronavirus is a man-made new form of neurowarfare unleashed on the world under a secret United Nations protocol using a viral delivery system to strong-arm the human race, to redesign and restructure the biological blood stock and DNA gene pool of the entire human race, to forcefully integrate the human race into a new cybernetic evolution of mankind by redesigning and re-engineering the DNA patterns.
The modern type of bioweapons are frequency controlled. Yeah. So they don't even start doing any harm before they're not activated. We saw that, for example, and this is an interesting story, when we look into what's happening in the US. Sentient world simulation run by the intelligence community that is basically picking up data from transhumanistic technologies of all the people, creating a real world simulation.
You see, if you're going to defend yourself against technology that replaces people, then the next step of convergence is to create technology that behaves like people, that in a digital world you cannot tell one from the other. We're capable of creating massive networks so real that you cannot tell them apart.
And then the plan is to reverse the signal from the antenna systems they run, which is also always the phase array antenna technology. And they want to reverse the signals and basically to turn US citizens into biorobots.
And once infected, once the person is infected with this virus, the coronavirus, okay, these nanoparticulates migrate through the bloodstream to the brain and adhere to the neurotransmitters of the victim's brain and begin to speak to and decode those neurotransmitters through a process called directed energy flashing.
So this is all done by this DNA. There's a new field of research They realized that the base pairs can be mounted into a chain in a way that functions like a computer, like a logical element.
What we've designed, and we've done this very, very quietly, but we're glad to now release it to the world, is this idea of Tesla-phoresis, which is a discovery we made several years ago, and we've been developing it. And Tesla-phoresis is, the simplest way to understand it is self-assembly at a distance, just long-distance assembly of materials. And what we did was, because we're at Rice, we had plenty of nanotubes around, so we decided to use nanotubes. And what we discovered was that these nanotubes can actually string together and form wires by themselves under this electric field. Power on, and up.
Self-assembly is very big. That is, if you can get things to build themselves, just as in biology, we build ourselves.
And this is if you visualize this, it's like the old method with telephones, when you were dialing with sound. Every base pair has a resonance frequency. It's somewhere in the terahertz range. And if you hit the right frequency, it is opening, like a light conducting unit. And if you have a chain of these base pairs that react on different frequencies, you need a sequence of sounds to open all the fragments to make the entire thing conductive. So it goes like do-do-do-do-do, and then the next part of the genetic thing is activated to either produce light or to produce poison. And this is something beautiful out of their view of the world, because if you bring this RNA or DNA into the human body, you can kind of take a radio signal and activate it from outside to produce any substance you want or to produce any light you want. Light is emotion, light is thought, light is everything. Everything we sense as experience. There was a community of like 200 scientists who didn't want to support this development anymore, and they united to a group and started to speak out as a group to the public. Their families were assassinated with radio frequencies, and the symptoms of them dying were very, very, very similar to coronavirus death. Like having flu-like symptoms, then going to hospital with lung infection, and then dying from organ failure. So apparently we do have something that is related to electromagnetic warfare that shows the same symptoms. Like the flu, that is easily mistaken. And then we can basically look to see in the United States, this is all a hidden agenda. Nobody is officially talking about the things, even if you have the terms that describe the technological system. So this is an agenda that is rolled out in the hidden in the United States. In China, it is actually the opposite. Yeah. In China, this idea of having a central AI controlling everything is rolled out in public, being sold as an AI goddess, that is kind of the loving mother of the state, taking care of all people, making sure that everything is prospering in harmony. This is how they sell these developments. And still, this is also absolutely public. Every citizen is getting a kind of a ranking system of collecting points of being nice or naughty.
Yeah, the social credit system.
Yeah. Yeah, social credit system. So, and people support that because Chinese people are afraid of each other. So they want each other to be cancelled out in case of getting naughty. Mm-hmm. This is their mentality and they fully accept that. So this is on a completely different level. And what we do know is that Wuhan area is leading in 5G rollout worldwide. So at a certain point you need, if you have this agenda that says let's turn everybody into AI controlled biorobot to make sure nobody dances out of the line, at a certain point this needs to be tested to gather data to make it function better, and at a certain point it comes to the moment where all the people who do not comply, who do not function as AI robots, need to be removed. And I know the data from the United States, the guys who still continued after all the families were murdered from these group that started to talk openly about what HARP facilities were built for. He said that actually 70% of US population see mind control as something external. So this is biorobots.
But you're saying 70% are already there. I mean, just 30% yes. Or maybe a bit less, yes. I don't know, but okay.
In Europe, I don't have numbers. I just have some experience of my environment. You know, you get these funny moments. I had them twice till now. When I was in company, and suddenly there's like a wave going through the setup. Everything goes dark for a second or a nanosecond, and then I revive, and I wake up in a different conversation.
What, a split of a second later?
A split of a second later, something completely else is happening around me. And it's like the conversation we had was cut, stopped, ended in nowhere, and the conversation that continued sounded like it has been running for half an hour already.
The entities that do the wiping are literally akin to daemon processing systems for the computer. It's sort of like a background processing system, a program, I mean, for a computer system, to the point where as soon as a person begins to absorb information through their data processing center, their mind, that is not relative to that time or the plane, basically a specific set within a rule set or a parameter for the local environment or the control system, these entities come and try and pull that information out. They literally try and delete the information from the timeline. And that's personally or collectively. And that part's real weird, but that's what that is. And apparently their role is a good role. This is how it was explained to me. And I've seen these meetings too.
And I had this effect twice. And one time I was with friends on Fuerteventura, and they were in the same spirit as I was. And a day after, the guy whom I was visiting told me, actually, you know, I think without an AI controlling everything on the planet, we are lost. Humanity is not going to make it. We need an AI to control us. So he basically, boop, completely was switched in his... and there were actually 2 people on the table from 6 who perceived that moment of going dark and reviving and having the talk shifted. 2 of us could feel it.
Wow.
And all the other ones said, no, there was nothing.
And did you speak about it at that time?
Yeah, we communicated about that.
Wow. What was his...
So,
what did you think of it? I mean, what do you think of it now? What was it?
For me, it feels like the sentient world simulation taking over things to push it into a defined direction when what it sees, it doesn't like it. So apparently they have like monitoring things that see when developments take a direction that are not wanted, and then they test different scenarios, and then they decide for one scenario, and they just jump in.
We have every bit of information for watching, because we can't look into the real computers, but we can look into ours, and we can see what processes they use, and then decide to quarantine the actual system using software-defined networking. And then they can't talk out to the real world, and instead we tunnel them down to a shadow HR department that isn't real, but just behaves like real. Now, I got to be honest here, we couldn't show you everything. We had to actually change a lot of names, scribble out some IP addresses, and we're not allowed to bring you as deep into the network as we want. It's a good thing, because if we showed you everything, we'd have to shoot you. So we've come to the end of our journey of convergence of man and machine, of confluence between two separate streams that come together to make things more powerful. We've seen technology go from completely separate from man to leveraged, to replacing man, to behaving like man. What comes after behaving, I wonder? Well, if history is any guide, the question shouldn't be if this technology will one day profoundly impact our lives. The question should be, will we ever even realize it? Thank you very much.
Lumea cibernetică, care este de fapt noua eră mondială, totul va fi electronic, totul. Nimic nu va fi în afară de această posibilitate de existență. Deci tot ce este cibernetic este zidit pe minciună, pe copie, copiat, ca funcționabilitate perfectă, dar ca existență nu se bazează pe adevăr. Pentru că singurul adevăr care este adevărul cu A mare, este doctrina Domnului nostru Iisus Hristos. El a și spus că nu vă temeți, eu am biruit lumea, și cine este cu mine va avea biruință, pentru că eu sunt calea, adevărul și viața.